Are you in midlife and tempted to make radical changes to your life? Before you do, give me 5 minutes of your time. This is the Midlife Guy. This is Midlife in a Minute. Hi, I'm the Midlife Guy and welcome back to another episode of Midlife in a Minute. And today we're talking about making radical changes in midlife. You know, stereotypes happen because they're based to some degree on reality, and then the myth gets perpetuated by media and television and film and all that sort of thing, and it gets a life of its own. But stereotypes are based on reality, and one of those realities is that in midlife we are tempted to make radical changes. What sort of changes am I talking about? Well, the sort of things that you see in TV and film, things like buying a new sports car. In fact, in middle age, a sports car is ahead of every other vehicle in terms of purchases by midlife men. The colour's black though and not yellow. Running off with someone who's young enough to be your daughter. Radical body changes like putting on muscle or taking up extreme exercise, or maybe getting tattoos or dreadlocks or some other thing which is not in your past what you've been normally characterized as doing, making some sort of radical change. Before you do make a radical change, I encourage you to stop and watch this video through and think through what you're doing. And here's why. Look, I'm not saying that necessarily those things are not you and that you shouldn't go get dreadlocks or get a tattoo or what it is that you want to do. But don't go and make radical decisions because you've just thinking, right, I'm done. I need to change something. This is not me anymore. I need to explore and find something different. But there are other reasons as to why we might make radical changes. And the first one is that we are simply getting older and we're starting to become more aware of our mortality, and so we want to recapture some youth. So this is where the stereotype does come in a little bit, where the media says, well, look, it's just a man or indeed a woman going back to their adolescence, to their teenage years. And there are some similarities in terms of what you're going through, because maybe you're going through years of not being heard. And maybe you've kept to yourself, or maybe you've been telling people, but nobody's heard. You've been doing a job that's just been going on and on and on. And it can be like the teenage years where teenagers feel like they're not being heard, that they're not understood. And something happens, they do something to get noticed. Now, that can be one reason. Another reason is that you're getting old and you are actually coming to realize that you are mortal after all, that you're not invincible. And this is where sometimes you're a little bit different from a teenager. Often teenagers think, well, look, I am bulletproof, I'm invincible, I can do what I like. But when we were getting older, we sort of start to realize, wow, I'm halfway through my life and where am I going? What am I doing? And with those emotions that start to boil up, we think, man, I must get on with it. I must do something. There's something, I must make some changes in my life. Otherwise, my life is going to be over. And what am I going to have to show for it? The reality is, as humans, we do have a natural fear of mortality, of death. All animals have it, and humans are no different. And although you may be comfortable with the idea of hitting the grave and what's coming after for you, the reality is that very few of us, when we're at that point, are actually content with it. And there are many stories of people who have jumped off a bridge, and the second they've done it, they've thought that this is the only way, that they're sure they want to do it, but the second they've jumped off, they've regretted it and want to go back. And we know that because some people survive and live to tell about it. So we do have a natural instinct to want to stay alive. And so that can be a part of what is behind us wanting to recapture some of our youth and to keep going and to make new decisions and to try new things before we're too old to do so. Related to that is the second reason, that we can feel like we're missing out, that we've missed out on something. Maybe you've done a career or your life that is not really you, that you just had enough of. And you look at Instagram or look at Facebook or you look at your friends and it just feels like you're missing out. You're missing out on life. You know, there is so much pressure when we're younger, when we're in our teens and in our 20s, maybe even in our late 20s, to get educated, to get a job, and to start making something of our life. The pressure comes from our parents, it comes from our friends, it comes from people we associate with, it comes from everywhere. To get a job and to get on with life, to have a family, sometimes that pressure's there, to get married. And sometimes we do that before we're fully grown up, before we're fully ready. And it's hard to make the decisions at that point that are going to set us for the rest of our life. It's kind of actually irresponsible and naive to think that we can make a decision as a 25-year-old that we're going to be happy with for the rest of our life. And so when we get to 40 or 45 or 50, there's nothing wrong with revisiting those decisions and thinking, well, actually, I'm not the same person I was back then. Or maybe there's some things that I didn't do when I was younger that maybe I would like to do now. That thinking is not necessarily wrong, but we need to be careful on how we direct that and make sure that we've considered other people and how it will affect them and the people that we're in relationship with, our work and our future, and not put it off for such a long time and that it all of a sudden just pushes us into making some radical decision. You know what? I'm going to go and jump on a boat and sail around the world and leave my family and go and do it. Now, there might be another way of being able to satisfy that desire to live some adventure or to do something daring and exciting without breaking those relationships and just completely ruining your life when you get back. Another aspect of feeling like you've missed out is maybe you've learned to be a people pleaser. And this is something that we often learn when we're kids. You know, think about it. When we're little kids, we learn what pleases our parents and what doesn't. And we learn what gets us a smile and their favor and maybe some benefits of watching an extra hour of television or a movie or something. We learn that if we have certain behavior, then we get rewarded. Good behavior, we get rewarded. If we have poor behavior, we do something that upsets them, then we have negative consequences. And it's a lesson we learn very early on in life. And it's one which is very easy for us to carry on into our teen years, our 20s, our 30s, our 40s and onwards, to become people pleasers, to become someone who doesn't want to upset others, who wants to feed off the positive affirmation of others, of pleasing others. And there's nothing wrong with doing things for other people, but when we take that too far and become a people pleaser, we can get to a point in our life and think, you know what? I've been living somebody else's life. I've been doing things for others my whole life and nothing for me. And it can sound really selfish, but we need to strike a balance. We need to catch ourselves before that goes too far and strike a balance where, yes, we are other orientated and thinking of others and how our actions affect others, but we also need some time for ourselves, some time to do the things which de-stress us, which renews our energy, which pushes our buttons, our good buttons. And so if you're a people pleaser, you need to be careful, because there could come a point when you just want to throw the baby out with the bathwater and do something crazy, and the repercussions for that could be not what you're looking for in your future. A third aspect is that maybe you don't actually really know yourself anymore. And like I said before, sometimes you make decisions when you're in your 20s or your 30s and you're not the same person that you were. I know I'm not the same person closing in on 50 as what I was when I chose my career back when I was in my early 20s. I'm not the same person. And I know from looking at the science physiologically that my brain doesn't function the same way. And I'm not the same person. I'm not as good at left brain activities as I was when I was 25 or 30, but I am better at some of the right brain activities. But I've also got different goals. There are different things which are important to me. Now in this day and age, I'm looking forward to, well, what sort of legacy am I going to leave? But when I was 20 or 30, I didn't care about leaving a legacy. I was caring about other things like making money and getting a house and starting a family and doing those sorts of things. So you're not the same person that at 45 or 50 is what you were 20 years ago. And an important aspect of not being the same person is your values. So I encourage you to do a values exercise. And it's one thing I do with my one-on-one coaching clients. We do something called Core Value Compass, where we carefully examine what are your values, not what your parents' values are, not what your kids' values or your wife's or your husband's values, but what are your values today? Not are the values that you think you should have because someone in church says that you should have those values, but what are your values? And from there, you can start to think about vision and action plans that are in line with your values. And when you do that, then you'll have far more fulfillment, far more purpose, far more energy in what you're doing than if you're trying to live somebody else's values, which aren't really yours. So, in summary, it's understandable that you might want to run. I get it. Maybe you feel like you've had enough. You've been living somebody else's life. You're not living your own life anymore. Maybe you want to do some things that you feel like you've missed out on. Maybe you want to recapture some of your youth. Maybe you just want people to notice you and to appreciate you for who you are and for who you are, not necessarily for what you can bring to others. Maybe you just want a stage of life coming up to be a bit more fun. You've been through the hard slog of building a career and growing a family, and it can be hard. And maybe you just want to have a little bit more joy and peace and a bit more fun in your life. Look, so I get it. I get it that you want to make a change. And in fact, that is a good thing, that you want to do something about it. If you're not sure, if you think, well, there's nothing I can do, don't be so sure about that, because there is always steps you can take. You have a moment today. You have a moment now, today, where you can stop and think about what sort of future you actually want. And are the things that you're planning on doing, are the radical changes that you're contemplating doing, are they really what are going to give you, are they really stepping stones to what you want down the line, down the future, when you're 60, 70, 80 years old? Are those things which are consistent with who you want to be and what you want to be and what you want to have as your legacy when you're that age? So you can make changes. Look, you can do some things that are radical, but think through the consequences of them. So look, if you're at the end of your tether and you're thinking, I just want to make some changes, I want to just run, I just want to hide, I just want to get out of here, I just can't stand it anymore, then I hear you. You want to run, you want to make some changes, you want to change things. So what should you do? Well, I'm not an expert in your life. And one thing about being a coach, as not a consultant, just come in and tell you what to do, nor a counselor that are going to fix your past. But as a coach, I'd encourage you to do a couple of these things. So first of all, take a deep breath and take some time and talk to somebody. Talk to someone who you can trust, somebody who is trained to be able to help you work through and think through the implications of what you're contemplating doing, so that you've got a full picture. You've counted the cost before you've gone and made some sort of radical decision. What I do with my clients is I sit them down and we talk through the whole range aspect of where they are now, who they are, what is going on in their life, and we examine every piece as a complete picture, because each part of your life affects every other part. And then we work on vision. We set a vision. What is it that you want to be? Not just what you want to be, but what should be. What should be in your future, and why it is important to you to make some steps to make it happen now. And then we formulate a plan, a strategy on how to get there. And then we look for obstacles. Now, in midlife, there's always obstacles. There's always external obstacles, such as, oh, well, I'm married, I've got a mortgage, I've got this job and I can't quit, I won't be able to get another job. There are all sorts. I've got kids. I'm not as young as I used to be. There can be lots of external obstacles, but the biggest obstacles are always in here. And when you're able to battle your internal mental obstacles, then a lot of those external ones, we can find a way around them. So I would encourage you to find somebody to talk to. And then I'd also encourage you, maybe in conjunction with that or separately, is there are a lot of great assessments that you can do to look at who you are now, your values, your personality, what your strengths are. And you might find some things about yourself that you didn't understand, you didn't know before doing those exercises. And they might provide you with valuable information into what sort of steps you should take next. And then lastly, make sure you do your research, because making radical changes often comes with regret down the track. So make sure you've counted the cost, you've done the research, and you're really fully committed with all the knowledge that you need to before you pull the trigger on that radical outcome. So a quick question for you. Are you considering something radical? If so, what is it that you're considering? Put it in the comments below and tell me what it is. Then lastly, if you'd like to talk to somebody who is trained and impartial and completely confidential about your situation, then give me a call. You can get me on the website, guymarlincoaching.com, and you can book a free call with me and we can have a chat and see what your situation is. So thanks for watching. I'm the Midlife Guy. This has been Midlife in a Minute. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and to click the bell, and we'll see you next time. If you have a question, I'm only a comment away. If you found this video helpful, then hit the like button and share it with your friends. And make sure you subscribe, as I'm putting up new stuff each week to help you make midlife the turning point in a life worth living. Need a personalised guide? Your own coach through life and career is only a few clicks away over at GuyMullenCoaching.com. Thanks for watching. See you soon.